Why your kindness triggers hatred. Carl Jung's hidden truth. Have you ever asked yourself why certain people seem to hate you, even when all you've done is treat them with kindness? You go out of your way to help. You're dependable, supportive, and caring. And yet, they mock you, take advantage of you, or act like you're the problem. Carl Jung uncovered a psychological truth that turns everything we assume about human nature upside down. We tend to believe that kindness should always be returned with kindness. But Jung's deep dive into the unconscious mind revealed something much darker. Your kindness might actually provoke hatred in others, not because you've done something wrong, but because of what your goodness reflects back to them. Stay with me, because once you understand this, you'll never take someone else's rejection of your kindness personally again. Jung once said, "Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is." What does that mean? It means that every person carries within them a hidden side, a part of themselves they deny, suppress, or fear. And when you consistently act with compassion, that kindness can shine a spotlight on the parts of themselves they've disowned. Your generosity holds up a mirror to their inner world. When you're patient with someone who's short-tempered, they may not see patience, they see a threat. Your calmness challenges their inner chaos. Your forgiveness contrasts their bitterness. Jung called this dynamic shadow projection. Instead of facing their own darkness, they unconsciously blame you for making them feel small, inadequate, or exposed. This is the hidden reason good people often get punished for their goodness. Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." That's because true self-acceptance requires us to face not only our light, but our darkness too. And when you show up as kind and grounded, others are forced to confront everything they have not yet integrated. Many people would rather stay stuck in their pain than evolve. Your presence becomes uncomfortable for them, not because of what you do, but because of what you represent. Jung observed that most people build their identity around familiar suffering. They cling to their flaws, their wounds, and their story. So when your kindness suggests there's another way to live, to be free, whole, healed, it threatens everything they know about themselves. You didn't insult them, but your growth insults their stagnation. Jung called this reverse psychological inflation. Instead of making someone feel superior, your emotional maturity makes them feel inferior. And to ease that inner discomfort, their unconscious mind decides to cut you down. The sad truth? The more authentically kind you are, the more you may provoke resentment from those who haven't faced their own shadow. That's because your kindness is not just nice, it's disruptive. It challenges the status quo of their psyche. Jung noted that people will often invent reasons to justify their resentment. They may say you're too nice, or accuse you of having hidden motives. They may try to paint you as manipulative or self-righteous, all in an attempt to deny what your behavior reveals about them. And here's one of Jung's most profound insights. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So what does it say when your kindness irritates someone? It says they're wearing a mask. Jung called this the persona, the identity we craft to be accepted by society. It's often built on toughness, cynicism, or the belief that emotions are weaknesses. But when you live from your authentic self, your truth makes their mask feel fake. They can't admit this consciously, so they reject you instead. Here's the twisted part. Jung found that people often attack in others what they secretly admire. They'll call your kindness weakness, but envy your ability to love. They'll mock your patience while resenting their own impulsiveness. They'll label your empathy as naivety because they've buried their own capacity to feel. This is projection. They're not mad at you. They're mad at themselves, at what they've lost, suppressed, or never learned to express. Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." But awakening is dangerous in a sleeping world. Most people live unconsciously, repeating patterns, obeying societal scripts, never questioning why they do what they do. Jung called this being spiritually asleep. When you live from awareness, when you act with consistent kindness, grounded in truth, you become what Jung called individuated. You've separated from the crowd. You've chosen to evolve. And here's what happens. People who are still asleep will try to pull you back down. Not consciously. It's an unconscious psychological reaction. When you grow, you highlight their refusal to grow. When you heal, you show them their wounds. So, they try to recreate the dynamic where you were small, broken, or dependent, because that makes them feel safer. This is why people from your past might try to provoke the old version of you. The more you change, the more some people will resent you. The more you love yourself, the more they'll test your boundaries. It's not personal, it's psychological. Jung gave us a chilling warning. The collective unconscious, the shared beliefs of society, rewards conformity, not authenticity. When you show up as kind, calm, and compassionate in a culture that celebrates aggression, you become a threat. Not because you're wrong, but because you're evidence that another way is possible. And that threatens those who've built their identity around bitterness or control. Jung said one of the deepest archetypes in the unconscious is the scapegoat. Kind people often become scapegoats in toxic environments. Your presence is too pure, too centered, and so they project all their unhealed pain onto you. They turn on you because you're the mirror they don't want to look into. But Carl Jung also said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. So what do you do when being who you are triggers hatred? You look inward. Because sometimes, Jung warned, the hatred isn't just about them. It's also revealing something inside you. Are you being kind because it's who you truly are, or because you want to be liked, approved of, or needed? Jung called this the helper's neurosis pattern, where we perform kindness to avoid rejection. When kindness becomes a strategy to be loved, it loses its power and authenticity. People can feel this, and the more you try to prove your goodness, the more suspicious they become. So how do you change this? By doing what Jung called shadow work. You examine your own motives. You ask, am I being kind because I want to be seen as good? Or am I being kind because I am good? When you clean up the need to be appreciated, your kindness becomes strong, rooted, unshakable. You stop needing validation. You start expressing your truth. And here's the big shift. When your kindness is authentic, you no longer attract the same level of resistance. Not because the world changes, but because your energy does. Jung said, true kindness requires boundaries. Without boundaries, kindness becomes enabling. It invites projection. You become a dumping ground for other people's emotional wounds. But when your kindness has edges, people feel it. They can't manipulate you because you're no longer trying to be liked. They can't trigger you because you're no longer reacting from a wounded place. This is what Jung called differentiation, holding your center while letting others be who they are. When you practice conscious compassion, you don't take on their pain. You don't absorb their projections. You stay rooted in your truth. You help without needing to be a savior. You give without expecting return. You love without demanding approval. And that changes everything. Jung warned that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will rule our lives and we'll call it fate. And one of the most unconscious patterns is the victim-rescuer dynamic. Many kind people unconsciously seek out others to fix, but these relationships often turn toxic. The rescued person resents the imbalance and eventually sabotages the connection. Jung saw this as a form of self-sabotage. Kind people reliving childhood wounds, where being good got them punished, where love felt dangerous. If this is your pattern, Jung would say you must stop seeking people to save and start saving yourself. Because the real task isn't to be loved by everyone. It's to remove all the blocks that keep you from giving love freely, without fear, without attachment, without needing anything in return. That's true kindness. And here's the beautiful part. When your kindness is real, people may still misunderstand you, but they can't truly harm you. Because your kindness is no longer fragile. It's no longer a mask. It's no longer a performance. It's who you are. And when you reach this level of clarity, of strength, of self-acceptance, something magical happens. You're no longer at war with the world. You're no longer trying to prove your worth. You're simply living it. And yes, some people will still hate your kindness, but now you'll see it for what it is, a reflection of their pain, not your failure. They're not your enemies. They're your teachers. They show you where you still need boundaries, where you still seek approval, where you still give too much of yourself away. And when you see them this way, you no longer fear their judgment. You grow from it. You rise. You transcend. This Jung called the transcendent function, holding the paradox of being kind and boundaried, compassionate and strong, soft and powerful. This is the essence of psychological freedom. When you reach this place, kindness is no longer what you do, it's who you are. And that, my friend, is what truly transforms the world. If you found value in this message, make sure to subscribe. Share it with someone who needs this truth today, and consider leaving a super thanks. It helps this channel grow and keep the wisdom of Jung alive in modern life.